So we learned throughout the pandemic and with the guise of COVID and trying to protect us from this virus that they were trying to improvise was an advancement on the security state, an advancement on spying and abusing information from ordinary citizens for tyrannical use for government overreach. We knew this out in the open, and finally things are coming into play. Finally, things are being revealed, and hopefully there is more and more information being unfolded about violating privacy of ordinary Canadians and even some Americans who are entrenched in the Arrive Canada or the ArriveCAN app that was used to monitor, manipulate, and misuse people's personal information and data for government tyrannical overreach. It sounds like something out of the Orwellian nightmare playbook. And it happened out in the open under the guise of COVID, we're trying to protect you. And you may have remembered that during the trucker convoy, and particularly in this interview with Tucker Carlson, because this is the guy who was in the head of the convoy, this trucker here on the right, he mentioned about the increased surveillance state. And one of the things that brought attention and the reason for this trucker convoy, not only for the mandates that were infringing on workers' rights, infringing on, charters and rights and freedoms of ordinary Canadians for bodily autonomy and stuff like that, but also the fact that they were advancing the security apparatus and they were advancing surveillance on ordinary citizens. And what you're about to hear here, we showed this before, I'm going to show it again. It definitely sounds to the extreme of Orwellian 1984. This technological overreach, tyrannical tech world of the government surveilling on citizens and abusing their powers and abusing their personal information. So take a listen to this.
Well, it's simple. I mean, we've seen Canada go from a country of Justin Trudeau's promises of sunny ways into dark authoritarian oppression and control.
Yes.
We want two things. We want to get rid of the vaccine mandates and the passports. And the passports that's a really concerning one. Yesterday, it was my first time ever crossing the border in my truck with my digital passport. And I held my phone up to the border agent to give him the QR code. You know what he said to me? "Oh, it's okay, I don't need it." So what do you mean you don't need it? He said, "Oh, your phone already popped up on my screen and is correlated with your passport." Can you think of that? Can you believe that? So they know everybody who's coming up to the border before they're there, and they're tracking them. Now, maybe it's outlandish, but what's to prevent the government from introducing that across Canada and not limiting it to just borders? And you guys are getting it as well, and you can thank us for it, because apparently, according to our sources within the media and within government, we have some close ties. Apparently, the Trudeau government, the Biden administration had no interest in it, but the Trudeau government lobbied and requested the Biden administration to introduce this. We don't know why. We don't know the terms of the deal. Are they going to be trading intelligence back and forth between Canada and the U.S. tracking cell phones? Of course, we have no idea.
So he made the excellent point of what's going to stop the government from using this tactic of surveillance for just, the border, protecting the border from the virus. What's going to stop the government from overreaching that into different sectors and make this, COVID application under the guise of protecting us from advancing it to something even more outrageous? And we're seeing it. We're already experiencing right now. The head of the Bankers Association of Canada is introducing digital IDs. And this is, again, it's nothing to do with COVID. It has nothing to do with the virus. It has nothing to do with protecting us from the virus. It has no scientific reasoning for it other than the fact that this is government overreach, using it as a disguise to protect us when really it's them occupying us, their tyrannical oppression over us, and try to track down information so that we step into line. And you've seen the digital ID commercials we've shown multiple times. You've seen the technology, the currency that, you know, oh, we're going to allow certain people to have bank accounts, and if you don't use your bank account in a certain way, we're going to shut it down. How they're going to monitor people's, you know, driver's licenses, how people are going to be monitored for their passports, how much, you know, where they're traveling to, how much they're spending on certain. So it has nothing to do with the virus. And that's what the truckers revealed during this protest. That's what they revealed. You know, in a line step with this protest is that this information was leaked out, and the media tried to hide this away. They said, "Oh, it's not a big deal. Oh, it's just showing a passport. It's nothing cringeworthy. It's nothing crazy." Even though you just heard that he didn't even need the passport. They just assumed he scanned him and assumed that he's going over the border without any question. Like, that's just crazy on its own. But that was because of the application known as ArriveCAN. And that was the phone application, that was the digital passport that the Canadian government mandated on its citizens and American citizens from traveling in and around the borders, traveling around, you know, border town areas. And they heavily, you know, not just suggested, but mandated that people force themselves into this application, forced to give their personal information to the government, to these corrupted institutions, so that they can be manipulated, so that they can be controlled and monitored 24/7 without any means or explanation of why they're doing this. So now things are finally getting revealed. I was reporting to the Globe and Mail here. So one of the things is that the Arrive Canada app that supposedly started at around $80,000 because they wanted to investigate the expense of it, how much it was going to start up, how much, you know, government funding was going to be put into this to have this Orwellian application. They said it was $80,000. That is now increased to $54 million. So how does an application that starts from $80,000 to $54 million, how does that figure out? How does that make sense? That a phone application is costing this much, and why the Canadian government is spending $54 million on a surveillance technology, Orwellian technology, to surveil on Canadian citizens, then I don't know, providing clean drinking water, helping the homeless epidemic, helping the veterans that are also homeless, providing affordable housing, providing infrastructure, helping with hospitals and the crumbling healthcare infrastructure. There's so many things that $54 million could have been invested to and actually build society and build Canada into a better shape. But they used it for surveillance. They used it for Orwellian type tyrannical, outlandish things. And they're finally getting accountability for it. They're finally asking the question, why would something like this cost this much? If you said it started at $80,000, why did it jump to $54 million? It's just downright crazy. But then, something else also revealing that the Globe and Mail pointed out, Canadian tech companies created the Arrive Canada app. So they created a clone of the application over a weekend in criticism of government spending. So this is just kind of insane that not only were they able to recreate the application, which proves that it didn't need, you know, $54 million surplus from the government to afford all this. It shows that anyone can manipulate and make their own. But also the fact that other companies are now piggybacking on the government's overreach so that they can harvest your data. They can also collect and manipulate and scapegoat all your personal information, and they can make your decisions for you. So that's how gut-wrenchingly evil this really is, and why people should be more alerted and more pissed off about this. And why, you know, all the people now saying that they want, you know, COVID amnesty because of the ArriveCAN. Oops, sorry, we made misjudgment. It's downright a joke. They knew that this has nothing to do with COVID. They knew this was nothing to do with the health. This has nothing to do with the virus. It had nothing scientifically proven that any of this was helping the advancement of protecting us from COVID. There was no evidence to back those claims. All this was the government overreaching personal freedoms, personal privacy, and manipulating your data under the guise of protecting you. That's where this comes down. So it says 2 Canadian tech firms have announced that they've each independently recreated the ArriveCAN app over the Thanksgiving weekend to illustrate that Ottawa should not have paid anywhere near $54 million on the mobile software. Canada's tech community reacted with outrage after the Globe and Mail reported last week that total spending on creating maintaining the ArriveCAN app is on pace to exceed $54 million this year, which is more than doubled what the government recently said was spent. Laser Technologies and Tribal Scale, which produce apps for large corporate clients, said last Friday that their teams were going to hold voluntarily weekend hackathons to illustrate that ArriveCAN could have been made cheaper and quicker. Why did they even have to make it, period? That's the question I should be asking. That's the question that someone should have been asking in that room. Why did they have to invent the technology, period? Because they did not need any of this. They did not need the ArriveCAN app. What good did it do in preventing people from catching COVID? Does a phone application that has all your personal banking information, is that going to help you retract a viral infection from you? No. But what's going to do is allow the government to monitor you, figure out what you're doing, and then decide for themselves what they want to do with you. Whether you can have a bank account or not, whether you can rent a car, whether you can do certain things here and there, and overreaching your personal boundaries. Both have since announced that their hackathons successfully reproduced clones of the app. Laser has posted its code online, as well as a video and written explanation that describes what Clone App does and how it compares with the government ArriveCAN app. Having built over 100 different apps at Laser for some of the most exciting companies in the world, it was shocking for us to see the total amount of capital that was spent to design, create, launch, and maintain the ArriveCAN app, said Laser co-founder Zhang Mianjing in an online post. Building such crucial technology with many different stakeholders is no easy task, he said. However, the true cost to implement this should not have been this high. Again, the thing that frustrates me the most is, why did this need to happen in the first place? Why did we even need tracking technology? Why did we need the digital passports? Why did we need any of this? There's no scientific proven evidence that any of this was beneficial during the COVID pandemic. None whatsoever. So why the hell did they push this amount of money, this amount of time and attention to build an application to subjectively monitor individuals and then have random companies clone that technology and say they can do it cheaper and better? Why even do that? Why aren't those companies questioning the government for surveilling on people? Oh, because those companies also want to surveil. They want your information. They want to hijack all the data too. So they're going to do it for themselves. I wonder if this is the same company that also worked the Tim Hortons application. Because the Tim's app that people use to get coffee has been using your personal data and manipulating that. source, we showed you the video of that, that they were caught red-handed. So that's the thing that frustrates me. Like, why is this even a thing? Why is nobody questioning the use of this? The unauthorized use of hacking personal information of Canadians and manipulating people and using that information, harvesting that information, breaking, trust and breaking privacy of ordinary citizens to use against them. Why is that even a thing? It's just downright barbaric and insane, and cruelly just, it symbolizes the, Orwellian takeover of Orwellian, nightmare. And there's just really nothing else to say about that. It's just downright insane.